Aucklanders will receive their new capital values or CVs from today after several delays. These are the valuations that set how much your rates will increase by, or they're used in the process of setting rates. Overall, property across the Auckland region has dropped by 9% and by up to 14% in some inner-city fringe suburbs. Kelvin Davidson is Chief Property Economist at Cotality NZ. He's with me this morning. Kelvin, good morning.
Good morning.
So where are we looking at? Who's worst hit?
Well, it's early days in terms of the analysis. There's obviously a lot of suburbs, but it seems to be, I guess, your more expensive kind of central city suburbs, as you alluded to, that have seen the biggest falls in values. But I think really the key message here is that pretty much everybody's seen a fall in their CV between mid-21 and mid-24, just reflecting the timing when these CVs were taken. You know, if you think back to 2021, that's pretty much the peak. Mid-2024 was pretty much the trough. So I think if anybody's got away with a higher CV, I'd be pretty surprised.
Yeah, well, I think Great Barrier was looking pretty good, but may have been the only standout, Kelvin. What about commercial versus residential? Do we know anything there yet?
I haven't seen any insight on commercial. No, we tend to look at the housing market, and so commercial is a little bit off to the side of what we do. But yeah, I mean, commercial, from what I understand, has probably held up a little bit better than residential. There's been a lot of money flowing to that sector, but yeah, no great insight into that. Sorry.
The sense is that the outer suburbs seem to be holding up in value better than the inner ones. Is that because the inner ones were probably more overvalued than the outer ones, or is this a change in working from home, and how do you explain all this?
Yeah, probably all of those things, really. I mean, one thing I'd say also is that affordability is part of it. If you think of sort of so-called outer suburbs, they're going to be a little bit cheaper. We've seen first-home buyer activity pretty strong in general across the housing market, but in more affordable areas, first-home buyers tend to be stronger. So that's perhaps held up values a little bit better, but keep in mind, we're talking about relatives here. I mean, everywhere's been pretty weak. So it's more a story here of which have fallen more than others. Really, that's the story. And so, where first-home buyer demand's pretty strong as part of it, but also, I guess we've seen a little bit, if you think about some of those inner-city suburbs, apartments, a really dominant property type, they've perhaps been lagging a little bit behind too. So it might be buyer demand, sort of property type, a whole range of factors really.
And just to clarify, and this may not be one for you, but you may know the rates bill that we'll get. It's not like, because if your values drop, it doesn't mean your rate bill goes down, does it? It just means it increases at a slower rate than it otherwise would have.
Yeah, so pretty much if your CV fell, say 15%, you alluded to the average there was down about 9. If your CV fell 15%, you're probably still going to see a rates bill increase, but it might just be smaller than others. If your CV fell 5%, you're going to see a rates bill increase, and it may well be a little bit bigger than others. So really, this is set as at May 2024. It's a way of allocating rates across every home in Auckland, nothing more than that. And of course, keep in mind, they're already a year old, so property values have shifted on since then. And just because you've had a piece of paper through the mail doesn't necessarily mean that your property is going to sell for any different than it might have done a week ago. So this is really about allocating rates. It's not necessarily about current market values.
Yeah, just something that we can have fun and obsess with for no apparent reason. Kelvin, I appreciate your time this morning as always. Kelvin Davidson, who is with us from Cotality NZ. He's the Chief Property Economist